Good morning, class. Oh, yeah. Well, baby, or what we're now calling her is Lucille, her real name, has just met George, the little boy on the train who has the sign. He's all by himself, and he's really afraid of wolves attacking the train. And she's just tried to share a jelly bean with him. Let's see what happens next. Chapter 7. George said, I thought that this yellow jelly bean would taste like lemon, but it tastes like pear. Do you like it? Said Baby. George nodded. I like pears. My Aunt Gertrude has lots and lots of pear trees in her backyard. She probably has 100 pear trees. I'm going to stay with my Aunt Gertrude, but I only agreed to go because of the pears. Baby nodded. Something terrible has happened, said George. Oh dear, said Baby. Something horrible, said George. Does it have to do with wolves? Said Baby. And then, to Baby's horror and dismay, George started to cry. Look how little he is. His feet just come barely off the chair. It was a crisis, and Eugenia was the sister who was good in a crisis, not Baby. Oh no, said Baby. Oh dear. She emptied the jelly beans onto her lap and handed Sheila Marsden's monogrammed handkerchief to George. Her hands were shaking. I'm so afraid, said George. He clutched the handkerchief. He cried louder. Baby understood being afraid. When she was young, she had been afraid of everything. Bats, bicycles, dusk, the darkness that followed dusk, doorbells. She had, for some reason, been absolutely terrified of doorbells. Being alone had frightened her, and so had Mondays. Eugenia was afraid of nothing, of course. But whenever Baby had been afraid, Eugenia would sit with her in the green chair in the living room and read aloud to her. There was a lamp next to the green chair, and the lamp made a yellow pool of light, and inside that pool of light, sitting next to Eugenia, Baby had been safe. Look, there they are when they were little. There's Baby and little girl Eugenia. Baby felt a sudden sharp pain high up in her chest. She missed Eugenia. George hiccuped. She used Sheila's handkerchief to blow his nose. This handkerchief smells like jelly beans, he said. He took a deep breath and started to cry again. When I was a girl, I was frightened all the time, said Baby. And when I was particularly frightened, my older sister would read to me, and that always made me feel safe. Would you like to hear a story? George nodded. Yes, he said. But then Baby remembered that the only book she had was The Inimitable Spigot. Her heart fell. She did not think that The Inimitable Spigot was the kind of book that would cheer anybody up. But she supposed it would have to do. Baby opened the book. Page 1, Chapter 1, said Baby. George sniffed. Detective Henry Spigot was an extraordinary man and was recognized by the Department of Police, the town of Winsome, and the whole of humanity as such. No mystery was truly a mystery to Detective Spigot, or at least it did not remain a mystery for long. Detective Spigot lived alone in a greenhouse on a high hill, and from there you could see the whole of Winsome spread out below. The detective watched the people of the town from up high on his hill. He waited. Baby paused. George blew his nose into the handkerchief. Detective Spigot is smug, Baby thought. I do not care for him. George took a great gulp of air and held it in and then let it go. Whoosh. Aren't you going to read? He said. Yes, said Baby, but I was reading the wrong story. It wasn't much good, said George. I know, said Baby. I will read the right story now. Good, said George. Baby cleared her throat. She flipped to the middle of the book. She held the inimitable spigot in front of her. Chapter 1, she said. Once upon a time there was a king. The king was wise and good, but he was lonely, and sometimes late at night he would stand in his garden and watch as the stars fell through the sky, chasing each other. The king was certain that he could hear music, the sound of the stars calling out to each other in the darkness. The music comforted the king. Baby paused. The words she was reading weren't on the page at all. She, Lucille, Abigail, Eleanor, Lincoln, was making them up. Keep going, said George, and Baby did. This is getting exciting, isn't it?